Dr. Crickstall was having a quiet day in his clinic when the emergency call came in. His 6 tentacles shook as he reached for the communication device. The blue lights on his medical equipment blinked softly in the clean white room. Outside the window, the stars moved slowly past as the space station spun through the darkness. "Harmony 7 Veterinary Clinic," he said into the speaker. His voice was high and nervous, like it always was when he talked to new clients. "Hello, doctor," came a calm voice from the other end. The translator made it sound smooth and friendly. "My name is Captain Hyamu Park. I need help with my family companion. He's not feeling well." Dr. Crickstall's tentacles relaxed a little. A family companion sounded safe. Maybe it was one of those small furry creatures that humans like so much. He had heard about cats and dogs from other doctors. They seemed harmless enough. "What kind of companion?" Dr. Crickstall asked, picking up his datapad to make notes. "His name is Bongji, Yu," Captain Park said. "He's been with us for 3 years now. Usually he's very active and happy, but lately he won't eat his favorite food. He just lies around looking." "Sad." Dr. Crickstall nodded, even though the human couldn't see him. This sounded like a normal case. Animals got sick sometimes. It was his job to help them feel better. "Can you bring him to my clinic?" the doctor asked. "I have all the equipment I need here." "Yes, we're docked at Bay 7 right now. We can be there in 30 minutes if that works for you." "Perfect," Dr. Crickstall said. "I'll prepare an examination room." After ending the call, Dr. Crickstall felt good about himself. Humans were known for being difficult clients, but this one seemed polite and reasonable. His assistant Zephyra, a tall crystal being, walked into the room just as he hung up. "Another human client?" Zephyra asked. Her voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Are you sure that's wise? You remember what happened to Dr. Velinux?" Dr. Crickstall waved a tentacle dismissively. "That was different. Dr. Velinux was treating combat injuries on human soldiers. This is just a sick pet. What could go wrong?" Zephyra's crystal body flickered with doubt, but she didn't say anything more. She helped him prepare the main examination room, setting out all the basic medical tools they might need. 30 minutes later, Dr. Crickstall heard voices in his waiting room. He straightened his medical coat and walked out to meet his new clients. Captain Park was exactly what Dr. Crickstall expected from a human. He was average height with dark hair and kind eyes. He wore a simple blue uniform that looked well used but clean. Behind him stood 3 other humans, all looking friendly and relaxed. "Doctor, thank you for seeing us on short notice," Captain Park said with a small bow. "This is my crew. So-Young Kim, our engineer, Taemin Lee, our navigator, and Haijin Troy, our medical officer." Each human nodded politely as their names were said. Dr. Crickstall was impressed by their manners. Maybe the stories about humans being wild and unpredictable were wrong. "Where is your companion?" Dr. Crickstall asked, looking around the waiting room. "He's still in the transport container," So-Young said. "We wanted to talk to you first, make sure you were ready." That seemed thoughtful. Dr. Crickstall appreciated clients who cared about preparation. "I'm ready for anything," he said confidently. "Please bring him in." Taemin and So-Young went back outside while Captain Park and Haijin stayed in the waiting room. Dr. Crickstall could hear the sound of machinery moving in the corridor. It sounded heavier than he expected, but humans sometimes use big containers for small animals. Then he heard something else. A low, deep sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. It made the walls of his clinic vibrate slightly. Dr. Crickstall's tentacles started to shake again. "What was that?" he asked. "Oh, that's just Bongji, Yu," Captain Park said casually. "He's probably excited to meet you. He likes new people." The sound came again, louder this time. It was definitely coming from whatever was in that container. Dr. Crickstall's medical scanner started beeping. It was picking up something big. Something very big. Zephyra appeared in the doorway, her crystal body flashing bright red with alarm. "Doctor," she said urgently, "my sensors are detecting a massive life form approaching. The readings are off the charts." Before Dr. Crickstall could respond, Taemin and So-Young came back through the door. pushing a large metal container on wheels. The container was bigger than Dr. Crickstal had expected. Much bigger. It was the size of a small transport vehicle, with thick metal walls and warning lights flashing along the sides. The deep rumbling sound was definitely coming from inside the container. Dr. Crickstal's tentacles were shaking so hard now that he could barely hold his datapad. What exactly is in there? He asked, his voice getting higher with each word. Bong Ji Yu, Captain Park said simply. Our family companion. I said on the call. Dr. Crickstal's medical scanner was beeping frantically now. The readings showed something enormous, something with massive bone density and muscle mass. Something with claws and teeth designed for killing. The container stopped in the middle of the waiting room. So Young checked a control panel on the side and nodded to Captain Park. He's ready to come out, she said. Wait, Dr. Crickstal said, backing toward his office. What kind of animal did you say this was? We didn't say, Hyjin replied with a smile. But don't worry, he's very well behaved. The container began to open with a soft hissing sound. Steam came out of the gaps as the pressure equalized. Through the steam, Dr. Crickstal could see two glowing red eyes staring right at him. The eyes were as big as dinner plates. Dr. Crickstal's tentacles went completely rigid. His scanner was screaming warnings now, identifying the creature inside as one of the most dangerous predators in known space, a Nexus shadow beast. A creature that could tear through starship hulls with its bare claws. A monster that lived on death worlds and hunted in packs. Easy there, Bong Ji Yu, Captain Park said gently, stepping toward the container. The nice doctor is here to help you feel better. The container opened completely, and Dr. Crickstal got his first full look at the creature the humans called their family companion. That was when everything went black. Dr. Crickstal woke up on the floor of his own clinic. His tentacles felt heavy and his head was spinning. Above him, he could see the ceiling lights and Zephyr's worried crystal face looking down at him. Doctor, are you okay? Zephyr asked. You fainted when you saw the creature. Dr. Crickstal slowly sat up, remembering what had happened. The container, the red eyes, the massive predator that the humans called Bong Ji Yu. He looked around frantically, expecting to see blood and destruction everywhere. Instead, he saw something. Impossible. The huge shadow beast was lying calmly on his largest examination table. The creature was even bigger than Dr. Crickstal had thought, easily 500 kilograms of pure muscle and deadly claws. Its black fur seemed to absorb light, making it look like a living shadow, but around its neck was a collar. Not a control collar like the ones used to restrain dangerous animals. This was decorative, made of what looked like real jewels that sparkled in the clinic lights, and its claws, those terrible weapons that could cut through metal, were painted with bright pink nail polish. The beast was wearing tiny booties on all 4 feet. What is happening here? Dr. Crickstal whispered. Captain Park was sitting in a chair next to the examination table, gently scratching behind one of the creature's massive ears. The shadow beast's eyes were closed, and it was making a deep rumbling sound that Dr. Crickstal now realized was purring. Sorry about that, Doctor, Captain Park said. We should have warned you about Bong Ji Yu's size. Most people are surprised when they first see him. Surprised? Dr. Crickstal's voice cracked. That creature is a Nexus shadow beast. They're apex predators. They eat starships. So Young, who was standing near the beast's head, laughed gently. Bong Ji Yu doesn't eat starships. He prefers imported Rigelian steaks, though he's been refusing them lately, which is why we're here. Dr. Crickstal stared at her. You feed him Rigelian steaks? Those cost more than my monthly salary. Only the best for our boy, Tammin said proudly. He was at the creature's other side, checking what looked like a small device attached to the beast's collar. This monitors his health. Heart rate, body temperature, stress levels. We got it custom made on Centauri Prime. The shadow beast opened one red eye and looked at Dr. Crickstal. For a moment, the doctor felt pure terror. But then the creature just yawned, showing teeth the size of daggers, and closed its eye again. He likes you, Hyjin said. Usually he's more active when meeting new people. I think he's just feeling under the weather. Dr. Crickstall slowly got to his feet, still not believing what he was seeing. How is this possible? Shadow beasts are killing machines. They attack everything that moves. Not Bong Ji-yu, Captain Park sighed, continuing to scratch the beast's ears. He's been with us for 3 years, he's part of our family. But how do you control him? The 4 humans looked at each other and smiled. We don't control him, So Young said. We don't need to. He chooses to be with us. Dr. Crickstall felt dizzy again. This went against everything he knew about animal behavior. Shadow beasts couldn't be tamed. They were wild creatures driven by instinct to hunt and kill. Look at this, Hyjin said, pulling out a datapad. This is Bongji's medical history. She handed the pad to Dr. Crickstall. As he read through it, his confusion grew even more. The creature had regular grooming appointments, vitamin supplements, dental cleanings, even therapy sessions for something called separation anxiety. Separation anxiety? Dr. Crickstall asked. He gets upset when we leave him alone too long, Taemin explained. That's actually why we think he's been feeling sad lately. We've had some long cargo runs where we had to leave him on the station for weeks at a time. Dr. Crickstall looked at the beast again. It was hard to think of this massive predator as being lonely, but the medical data didn't lie. The creature's stress levels spiked whenever it was separated from the humans. Can I examine him? Dr. Crickstall asked hesitantly. Of course, Captain Park said. That's why we're here. Bong Ji-yu, the doctor wants to check you over. Be good for him, okay? The shadow beast opened both eyes and looked at Dr. Crickstall. Then it made a soft chuffing sound that might have been agreement. Dr. Crickstall picked up his medical scanner with shaking tentacles. As he approached the examination table, the beast watched him but didn't move. Its red eyes followed every movement, but there was no aggression in them, just curiosity. Hello, Bong Ji-yu, Dr. Crickstall said quietly. I'm going to run some tests. Okay, it won't hurt. The creature tilted its massive head to one side, listening. Dr. Crickstall activated his scanner and began the examination. The beast's vital signs appeared on his screen. Everything looked normal for a shadow beast, except for slightly elevated stress hormones. Can you open your mouth, Bong Ji-yu? Dr. Crickstall asked. The creature obediently opened its jaws, showing rows of razor-sharp teeth. But it did it slowly and carefully, making sure not to startle the doctor. Good boy, Dr. Crickstall said automatically. It felt foolish for talking to a predator like it was a pet, but Bong Ji-yu's tail twitched happily at the praise. Dr. Crickstall continued his examination, checking the creature's ears, eyes, and claws. The beast stayed perfectly still, letting him work. When Dr. Crickstall needed to check its paws, Bong Ji-yu lifted each one on command. This is incredible, Dr. Crickstall muttered. What's incredible? So Young asked. His behavior. The level of trust he shows. I've never seen anything like it. As if to prove the doctor's point, Bong Ji-yu playfully swatted at the medical scanner. It was meant to be a gentle tap, the kind a cat might give to a toy. The gentle tap sent Dr. Crickstall flying backward across the room. He crashed into a cabinet full of medical supplies, sending bottles and instruments flying everywhere. Oh no, Taemin said, rushing over to help. I'm sorry, Doctor. He's still learning to control his strength around smaller beings. He didn't mean to hurt you. Dr. Crickstall sat up among the scattered medical supplies. He wasn't really hurt, just surprised. And somehow, even after being knocked across the room, he could see that the beast looked genuinely sorry. He's been getting better at it, Hyjin said apologetically. When he was younger, he accidentally broke a lot more things. Dr. Crickstall looked at his scanner readings again. The creature's stress levels had gone up when he flew backward, as if Bong Ji-yu was worried about hurting him. I think I know what's wrong with him, Dr. Crickstall said slowly. It's not a physical illness, it's emotional. He misses you when you're gone. The loss of appetite, the low energy, it's all classic signs of depression in social animals. Captain, Park nodded. We thought it might be something like that. What can we do to help him? Dr. Crickstall looked at the massive predator lying on his examination table, wearing nail polish and a jeweled collar, surrounded by humans who treated him like a beloved family member. More time together, he said. That's the only cure for loneliness. Dr. Crickstall was writing up his treatment notes when the alarm started. Red lights flashed throughout his clinic and a loud warning siren echoed through the corridors of the space station. Code Red Emergency, came the announcement over the station speakers. All civilians report to emergency shelters immediately. Security teams to Base 7, hostile creature detected. Captain Park looked up from where he was still petting Bong Ji-yu. That's odd. I wonder what's happening. Zephyra rushed into the room, her crystal body flashing bright red with panic. Doctor, the security scanners have detected a massive predator in the clinic. They think it's escaped from containment. Dr. Crickstall looked at Bong Ji-yu, who was still lying peacefully on the examination table, and sighed. I think there's been a misunderstanding. The clinic's communication system crackled to life. This is Station Commander Velgoth. Evacuate the veterinary clinic immediately. We have confirmed presence of a Class 5 predator in that location. Class 5? So Young asked. What does that mean? It means they think Bong Ji-yu is a weapon of mass destruction. Dr. Crickstall explained. Captain Park pressed the communication button. Commander Velgoth, this is Captain Park. There's no emergency here. We're just having our companion examined by the doctor. Negative, Captain Park. Our scanners show a Nexus Shadow Beast in an unsecured area. Begin immediate evacuation. Procedures, but he's not dangerous, Captain Park said. He's just sick. There was a long pause on the communication system. Then Commander Velgoth's voice came back, sounding confused. Did you just say the Shadow Beast is sick? Yes, sir. That's why we brought him to the doctor. He hasn't been eating properly. Another pause. Dr. Crickstall could imagine the commander trying to process this information. Captain Park, are you telling me you voluntarily brought a Shadow Beast to a medical facility for treatment? Of course. Bong Ji-yu is part of our family. When family members are sick, you take them to the doctor. Dr. Crickstall heard sounds in the corridor outside his clinic. Heavy footsteps and the whining of energy weapons charging up. Through the window, he could see security officers taking positions. This is getting out of hand, he muttered. Bong Ji-yu had been listening to the conversation with growing interest. Now he lifted his massive head and looked toward the door. His ears were perked up and his nostrils were flaring. He can smell them, Taemin said quietly. About 20 armed beings in the hallway. Will he attack? Dr. Crickstall asked nervously. Not? Unless they threaten us, Haijin said. But he doesn't like it when strangers point weapons at his family. As if to prove her point, Bong Ji stood up on the examination table. At his full height, he was taller than any of the humans. His red eyes were now focused completely on the door, and a low growling sound came from deep in his chest. The growling made the entire clinic shake. Medical equipment rattled on the shelves and the lights flickered. Okay, that's not helping, Captain Park said. He put his hand on Bong Ji-yu's massive head. Easy, boy. No one's going to hurt us. Calm down. The beast looked at him and the growling stopped, but his muscles stayed tense. He was ready to fight if needed. Commander Velgoth's voice came over the speaker again. Captain Park, we're reading massive energy signatures from the creature. It appears to be preparing to attack. He's not preparing to attack, Captain Park replied patiently. He's protecting us. There's a difference. Captain, I need you and your crew to move away from the creature immediately. We're not leaving Bong Ji-yu, So Young said firmly. He's scared and confused. Moving away would just make things worse. Dr. Crickstall watched this exchange with growing amazement. The humans were completely calm, even with armed security forces outside and a massive predator ready to defend them. They acted like this was a normal family disagreement. Show them the photos. Haijin suggested to So-Young. So Young pulled out her datapad and activated the wall screen in the clinic. Pictures began appearing on the screen, showing Bong Ji-yu in various situations aboard the human ship. There was Bong Ji-yu, sleeping in what looked like a specially built room with soft bedding and toys scattered around. Another picture showed him playing with a ball that was nearly as big as Dr. Crickstall. In one photo, he was sitting patiently while Taemin brushed his fur. "This is his room on our ship," So Young explained to the security forces listening through the communication system. "He has his own space with everything he needs." More pictures appeared. Bong Ji-yu wearing different outfits for what looked like special occasions. Bong Ji-yu sitting at a table with the humans wearing a party hat. Bong Ji-yu curled up next to Captain Park while the human read a book. "These photos were taken over the last 3 years, Haijin added. Bong Ji-yu has never hurt anyone. He's never even damaged our ship, except for the time he got excited about a new toy and accidentally put his claw through a wall panel." Dr. Crickstall stared at the images. They showed a side of the shadow beast that he never could have imagined. The creature looked happy in every picture, content, loved. Commander Velgoth's voice was quieter now. "Captain Park, how is this possible? Every military database says shadow beasts cannot be domesticated." "We didn't domesticate him," Captain Park said. "We rescued him when he was injured and alone. We took care of him and he chose to stay with us. The cargo bay doors are open whenever we're in space. If Bong Ji-yu wanted to leave, he could, but he doesn't want to. This is his home." On the examination table, Bong Ji-yu was still alert and ready, but he had relaxed slightly. He could sense that the conversation was becoming less hostile. "Commander," Dr. Crickstall said into the communication system, "I've completed my examination of the creature. He's suffering from separation anxiety and mild depression. Nothing more dangerous than loneliness." "Loneliness?" The commander sounded like he was having trouble with the concept. "Yes, the creature becomes distressed when separated from his family for extended periods. It's affecting his appetite and energy levels." There was a long silence. Dr. Crickstall could hear quiet conversations happening among the security forces. Outside his clinic, finally, Commander Velgoth spoke again. "Captain Park, I need to understand something. Are you telling me that this creature, one of the most dangerous predators in known space, is essentially a very large pet with emotional needs?" Captain Park looked at Bong Ji-yu, who was now lying back down but still watching the door carefully. "Yes, sir," he said. "That's exactly what I'm telling you." Another long pause. "This is going to require a lot of paperwork," the commander said finally. The security forces had pulled back from the clinic doors, but Dr. Crickstall could still see them watching from a safe distance. Commander Velgoth had agreed to let the humans continue their visit while he tried to figure out what to do about the situation. "Doctor," Captain Park said, "would you like to see how we first met Bong Ji-yu? It might help you understand." Dr. Crickstall nodded. He was beginning to realize that everything he thought he knew about humans and dangerous creatures was wrong. So Young connected her datapad to the clinic's main screen. "These are our ship's log recordings from 3 years ago," she said. "We were doing a supply run to the outer colonies when we got a distress call." The screen showed the inside of the human ship's bridge. Captain Park looked younger, and his crew seemed more nervous than they did now. "Unknown vessel. This is cargo ship Daisy Chain responding to your distress signal," came Captain Park's voice from the recording. "What is your emergency?" A shaky voice answered. "This is poacher vessel Dark Prophet. We've had an accident. Our cargo escaped and damaged our engines. We're venting atmosphere and need immediate evacuation." Dr. Crickstall watched as the humans discussed what to do. They could have easily ignored the call. Poachers were criminals who captured rare creatures to sell them illegally, but they didn't ignore it. "Set course for their position," Captain Park ordered. "Prepare the rescue bay." The next recording showed the humans bringing the injured poachers aboard their ship. The criminals were hurt but alive. They kept talking about dangerous cargo that had escaped during the accident. "What kind of cargo?" Haijin asked as she treated their injuries. "Shadow Beast cub," one of the poachers said. "We caught it on Kepler 442b. Was supposed to bring a fortune on the black market. But the little monster went crazy when its mother was killed." Dr. Crickstall felt a chill. Now he understood. Bong Ji-yu hadn't been a willing companion at first. He had been stolen from his home and family. The recording continued. "The cub is still on our ship," another poacher said. "Probably dead by now. It was badly hurt when we caught it." Captain Park looked at his crew. "We have to check." "Captain, that's not safe," Taemin said in the recording. "Even a young shadow beast is extremely dangerous." "It's also alone and hurt," Captain Park replied. "We can't just leave it." The next recording was from their boarding of the poacher ship. The humans wore protective suits and carried basic medical supplies. They moved carefully through the damaged vessel until they found the cargo hold. Dr. Krickstall watched in amazement as the younger Bong Ji-yu appeared on screen. Even 3 years ago, he had been large, but he was much smaller than he was now. His black fur was matted with blood, and he was lying in the corner of a small cage. The cub was barely conscious, but when he saw the humans approaching, he tried to growl. It came out as more of a whimper. "Oh no," So Young said in the recording. "Look at those injuries." "We have to help him," Haijin said, already preparing her medical equipment. "Are you sure about this?" Taemin asked. "If we save him, what do we do with him?" "We can't take a shadow beast back to civilized space." Captain Park was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "First we save his life, then we figure out the rest." Dr. Krickstall watched as the humans carefully extracted the injured cub from his cage. Bong Ji-yu was too weak to fight them, but his red eyes watched their every move. The recording jumped forward to show the humans treating the cub's injuries in their ship's medical bay. Haijin worked carefully to clean his wounds while the others prepared food and water. "He's been starved," Haijin said grimly. "The poachers barely fed him anything. Will he survive?" Captain Park asked. "I don't know. He's lost a lot of blood, and his species doesn't usually do well in captivity. But Bong Ji-yu did survive." The next recording showed him slowly getting stronger over the following weeks. At first, he stayed in the medical bay, too weak to move much. The humans took turns sitting with him, making sure he wasn't alone. "This is the interesting part," So Young said to Dr. Krickstall. "Watch his behavior." In the recordings, Dr. Krickstall could see the young Bong Ji-yu gradually becoming less afraid of the humans. At first, he would growl whenever they came near. But slowly, as they continued to care for him without hurting him, he began to relax. The breakthrough came when he was strong enough to leave the medical bay, Captain Park explained. "We had built a temporary enclosure for him, but we left the door open. He could have gone anywhere on the ship." The recording showed young Bong Ji-yu exploring the human vessel. He was cautious at first, sniffing everything and staying alert for danger. But gradually he began to explore more freely. "Where did he choose to sleep?" Dr. Krickstall asked. "Right outside the bridge," Taemin said with a smile. "Where we spent most of our time. He wanted to be near us." The recordings continued, showing Bong Ji-yu growing larger and more comfortable with his human family. There were scenes of him learning to play with toys, learning to eat from a bowl instead of hunting, learning to be gentle with fragile things. "We had to teach him everything," Haijin explained. How to live with beings who weren't his own species. How to control his strength so he wouldn't accidentally hurt us. How to show affection without using his claws. Dr. Krickstall watched in fascination as the recordings showed this education process. The humans were incredibly patient. When young Bong Ji-yu made mistakes, they corrected him gently. When he did something right, they praised him enthusiastically. "The most important thing we taught him," Captain Park said, "was that he had a choice. Every day we made sure he knew that staying with us was his decision. If he wanted to leave, we would find a way to take him home." "But he never wanted to leave?" "Never. Even now, when we visit stations that are only a few light years from his homeworld, he shows no interest in leaving. This is his home now. We're his family." Dr. Krickstall looked at the present-day Bong Ji-yu, who was listening to the conversation. With interest, the massive predator seemed to understand that they were talking about him. "The difference between humans and other species," Haijin said thoughtfully, "is that we don't try to control the creatures we live with. We try to understand them. We try to meet their needs and earn their trust. Other species see a dangerous predator, Taemin added. Humans see a lonely individual who needs a family. Dr. Crickstall was beginning to understand. The humans hadn't tamed Bong Ji-yu in the traditional sense. They had simply offered him something he had lost when the poachers killed his mother, a family that cared about him. His stress levels when you're away, Dr. Crickstall said slowly. He's not just missing you. He's afraid you won't come back like his first family didn't? Captain Park nodded. That's what we think too. The solution isn't medicine. It's making sure he knows we'll always come back to him. Dr. Crickstall looked at the massive beast and saw him in a completely new way. Not as a monster or a weapon, but as a being who had suffered loss and found love again with the most unlikely family in the galaxy. Your species never ceases to amaze me, he said quietly. Dr. Crickstall finished writing his medical report while the humans prepared to leave. His recommendation was simple. You needed to spend less time separated from his family. The solution wasn't complicated, but it would require changes to their shipping routes. We can modify our contracts, Captain Park said after reading the report. Shorter runs, more frequent stops back at home base. It means less money, but Bong Ji-yu's health is more important. Actually, Dr. Crickstall said, I might have another suggestion. Many space stations need security services. A ship with Bong Ji-yu aboard would be very effective at discouraging pirates and thieves, So Young laughed. You mean we should use our family pet as a security system? Not use him, Dr. Crickstall corrected. Just let people know he's there. Most criminals would think twice about attacking a ship that travels with a shadow beast. It was a good idea, and everyone knew it. Captain Park made a note to look into security contracts when they returned to their home port. As the humans began loading Bong Ji-yu back into his transport container, word had spread throughout the station about what was happening in the veterinary clinic. Dr. Crickstall could see faces pressed against the windows in the corridor, all trying to get a look at the impossible sight. Easy, Bong Ji-yu, Taemin said as the big creature reluctantly entered his container. Just a short trip back to the ship, then you can have the run of the cargo bay again. Bong Ji-yu made a soft whimpering sound that somehow came from a throat capable of roaring loud enough to shake walls. He didn't like being confined, even for short periods. I know, boy, Captain Park said soothingly. But the corridors here aren't big enough for you to walk through. We'll be home soon. Commander Velgoth chose that moment to finally visit the clinic in person. Dr. Crickstall had expected a large, intimidating military officer. Instead, the Zentarian commander was shorter than most humans, with worried eyes and nervous gestures. Captain Park, Commander Velgoth said formally, I need to understand how this situation is going to work in the future. I can't have my security forces going into panic mode every time your ship docks here. Of course, Commander, Captain Park replied. What do you suggest? First, advance notice. When you request docking permission, you need to mention that you're traveling with a Class 5 Predator. My people need time to prepare. That seemed reasonable. Dr. Crickstall watched as the two officers discussed the practical details of having a shadow beast as a regular station visitor. Second, the commander continued, I need documentation. Medical records, behavioral assessments, proof that the creature is under control. He's not under control, Hyjin said patiently. He's part of our family. There's a difference. Commander. Velgoth looked confused. I don't understand the difference. Dr. Crickstall spoke up. Commander, if I may explain. Control implies force, restraint, dominance. What the humans have with Bong Ji-yu is cooperation based on trust and affection. The creature chooses to behave peacefully because he loves his family, not because he's forced to. And that's more reliable than control? The commander asked. Much more reliable, Dr. Crickstall said. Controlled creatures can break free, can turn on their handlers when the control fails. But Bong Ji-yu will never turn on the humans because they're not his handlers, they're his family. As if to demonstrate the point, Bong Ji-yu stuck his massive head out of the transport container and gently nuzzled Captain Park's shoulder. The gesture was so tender and affectionate that several of the watching station residents stepped back in surprise. I'll prepare the documentation you need, Dr. Crickstall offered. A complete behavioral profile and medical history. It should satisfy your security requirements? Thank you, Doctor, Commander Velgoth said. He looked at Bong Ji-yu one more time, shaking his head in amazement. I've been in space security for 20 years and I've never seen anything like this. As the humans began moving toward the door, other station residents gathered in the corridor to watch them pass. Dr. Crickstall could hear whispered conversations in dozens of different languages. Is that really a shadow beast? How are they not dead? Look how calm it is. Those humans are completely insane. But Dr. Crickstall noticed something else in the voices. Along with the fear and confusion, there was also wonder. People were seeing something they had thought was impossible, and it was changing the way they thought about both humans and dangerous creatures. A group of Corvani traders had pushed to the front of the crowd. Their leader, a large being with blue-scaled skin and sharp teeth, looked at the humans with obvious contempt. "Typical humans," he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Always taking foolish risks, thinking they know better than everyone. Else, that creature will turn on you eventually. Predators can't be trusted." The corridor fell silent. Dr. Crickstall saw Captain Park's crew exchange glances, but they didn't respond to the insult. Bong-Gu, however, did respond, the massive head emerged from the transport container again. This time, the red eyes were focused entirely on the Corvani who had spoken. Bong-Gu's lips pulled back to reveal rows of deadly teeth, and a low growling sound filled the corridor. The sound was different from the growling he had done earlier in the clinic. This was deeper, more threatening. It was the sound of a predator. Warning potential enemies to back away from his family, the Corvani trader took several quick steps backward, suddenly realizing he had made a mistake. Everyone else in the corridor pressed against the walls, trying to get as far away as possible. "Bong-Gu," Captain Park said quietly. "That's enough." The growling stopped immediately. Bong-Gu looked at Captain Park, then back at the Corvani trader. The message was clear. The human had called them off, but the protection was still there if needed. "Thank you, boy," Captain Park said, scratching behind the creature's ears. "But they're not worth getting upset about." Bong-Gu made a soft chuffing sound that might have been agreement, then retreated back into his container. The Corvani traders left the area quickly, muttering among themselves. The other station residents watched them go, then looked back at the humans with new respect. "Well," Commander Velgoth said quietly, "I think your security applications just got a lot more interesting." As the humans prepared to leave with their unusual family member, Dr. Crickstall felt compelled to say something. "Captain Park," he called, "thank you for letting me meet Bong-Gu. This has been the most educational experience of my career." "Thank you for helping him, Doctor," Captain Park replied. "Will you be available if we need you again?" Dr. Crickstall thought about that. 6 months ago, he would have said no without hesitation. The idea of regularly treating a shadow beast would have terrified him. Now he found himself nodding. "Yes, Captain. Anytime you need me." As the humans left with their transport container, Dr. Crickstall began writing a new kind of medical report. Not just about Bong-Gu's condition, but about what he had learned about humans and their incredible ability to form bonds with creatures that other species could barely tolerate. His report would eventually be read by veterinarians and xenobiologists across the galaxy. It would challenge everything the scientific community thought they knew about predator behavior and interspecies relationships, but that was 6 months in the future. Right now, Dr. Crickstall was just a veterinarian who had learned something amazing about the universe. 3 days later, he received another call from Captain Park. "Hello, Doctor," came the familiar calm voice. "We found something that needs medical attention. I was wondering if you make house calls to gas giant atmospheres?" Dr. Crickstall looked at his appointment calendar, then at the special equipment. He had been researching for extreme environment medicine. "What kind of creature this time, Captain?" he asked. "A void kraken. Juvenile, probably injured. We found her floating near the shipping lanes." Dr. Crickstall closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Void krakens were even more dangerous than shadow beasts. They could grow to the size of small starships and had tentacles that could crush metal. How big is she? He asked. Only about 50 meters long, still young. We've named her Mina. Doctor. Crickstall looked at his assistant Zephyra, who was flashing bright red with alarm again. I'll pack my equipment, he said. Send me your coordinates. After ending the call, he began gathering his most advanced medical tools. Zephyra watched him with what might have been concern. Doctor, she said, are you sure about this? After what you learned about humans and dangerous creatures? Dr. Crickstall smiled as he packed his scanner and emergency medical supplies. After what I learned about humans and dangerous creatures, he said, I'm more worried about what would happen. If I refuse to help them,